Hello and welcome to my channel. Boris Johnson was recently elected as the leader of Conservative Party and appointed as the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. So this is a good chance to look into his background, particularly by focusing on his family roots, and that's what I'm going to do in this video. So I have prepared some slides to explain on them, and he was born in 1964. The first surprise is he was born in the United States, in New York, to British parents. The full name is Alexander Boris Pfeffel Johnson. Pfeffel is a name which comes from his great grandmother on the father side, the paternal grandmother side. So the father name is Stanley Johnson, and the mother name is Charlotte Johnson Wilde. He has three siblings and also two other siblings which are from the second wife of Stanley Johnson, which I will explain later. Rachel, Joseph, and Leo are his siblings. And I would first explain about his mother. The name, when she was born, the full name was Charlotte Maria Afla Fawcett. She was born in 1942, and she is an artist, a painter, famous for some of the portraits which she have drawn. And she was granddaughter of American descent. The name was Alias Avrilau, which was a paleographer, and Helen Tracy Lau, she was a translator. So paleographer, as you know, is someone who works on ancient texts and literature. So Charlotte studied English at Oxford University. That was the place that she met her future husband, Stanley Johnson. They married in London in 1963, then moved to the United States. And it was in the following year, 1964, which Boris Johnson was born in the New York. Charlotte and Stanley divorced in 1979 when Boris Johnson was 15 years old. And later, Charlotte Fawcett married an American professor named Nicholas Weil in 1988, but Nicholas passed away in 1996. And anyway, Charlotte was later diagnosed with Parkinson's disease at the age of 14. Now, the point is, unfortunately, Charlotte, the mother of Boris Johnson, was suffering some serious mental disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder, and unfortunately depression as well, which was the main reason that the couple separated. In these photos, you would see Charlotte here at her studio. Here you see members of family except for Charlotte, and on the bottom you see some old photos. In this photo they are with their nanny, and here also you would see their nanny on the back, and I will explain about her soon. And this photo you can see Boris and Rachel, her sister. Now, because of the mental problems which Charlotte had, they recruited a nanny. The name was Mary Kidd, or Mr. Knox, and she contributed largely to raising the children, particularly Boris. You would see in this, as we are seeing, Charlotte was to be in hospital on several occasions because of mental problems, and it was Mary who looked after the children. And she was a chain smoker, but she was a person with great humor and great patience, and she contributed largely to the fortune of this family. In this photo, you can see her at background. This is a Stanley, this is Charlotte, and this is Mary Kidd. Now, I would like to explain about Boris Johnson's father, Mr. Stanley Patrick Johnson, born in 1940. Here, things get Interesting because he was the son of a man named Osman Kemal, which was later called Wilfred Johnson. And Osman Kemal is Turkish of a Turkish father, Ali Kemal, who was a very famous journalist, and of an Anglo-Swiss mother. I will explain later. Now, the mother of Stanley Johnson was Irene Williams, but Irene Williams' full name was Yvonne Eileen Irene Williams. And in some sources it is mentioned that she was born in Versailles, France, but I'm not sure about that. So Stanley Patrick Johnson studied at Exeter College, Oxford, and he, exactly like his son Boris Johnson, studied classics, which is about classical studies, studying antiquity and archaeology and ancient literature by focusing on Greek and Latin studies. So he was a political activist. He was a member of the European Parliament. That was the reason that he lived in Brussels for some years. And Boris also and the rest of the family moved to Brussels, to Belgium, in this regards. He was also former employee of the World Bank and the European Commission. So Stanley Johnson married twice. First wife, who is the mother of Boris Johnson, was Charlotte Fawcett. They have 4 kids together. And later, Stanley married Jennifer Kidd, which to this date, they are couples. They have 2 children, Julia and Maximilian. Now, I'm going to explain about the paternal grandfather of Boris Johnson, which would be the father of Stanley Johnson. The name was Osman Kemal. He was born in Bournemouth in Hampshire, and his birth was registered as Osman Wilfred Kemal. So Osman Wilfred Kemal was born in 1909 to Ali Kemal. He is of the first wife of Ali Kemal, which was Winifred Braun. As I mentioned, she was an Anglo-Swiss woman. Now, after that, in 3 years, and I would explain this as well in the next slide, Ali Kemal returned to Turkey in 1912, but his 2 children, which one of them was Osman Wilfred and the other one was his sister Selma, were brought up by their English grandmother Margaret Braun. And the name of Margaret Braun at time of birth was Margaret Johnson. That is the root of the name Johnson, which was added to the family later. So the paternal grandfather of Boris Johnson was later named Wilfred Johnson instead of Osman Kemal. Probably he adopted a combination of Turkish and British name in this regard. Now here you would see the 2 photos of Wilfred Johnson or Osman Wilfred Kemal. And in some sources it is mentioned that he was born in 1907, but 1909 seems more correct. For some reason, it is very difficult to find good photos of Wilfred Johnson and also his wife, but I managed to find these 2 photos. Now, about the paternal grandmother, her name, as I mentioned, was Yvonne Eileen Irene Williams, and she was the daughter of Stanley Fred Williams and Mary Louise von Pfeffel. And this is where the name Pfeffel in Boris Johnson's name has originated. She married in December 1936 to Osman Wilfred Johnson. As I mentioned, their son was Stanley Johnson, and Boris Johnson is the son of Stanley Johnson, evidently. Now, again, it is very difficult to find any photo from Irene Williams, and really, I'm not sure if the photo that I have put here is really the photo of Irene Williams or if this is the photo of Mary Louise von Pfeffel. If you know, please help me and update me in the comments section. Another point about Boris Johnson's paternal grandmother is that, as it is explained here, in the year 2008, it was revealed that Boris Johnson is very distantly related to the Queen Elizabeth II, because Yvonne Eileen Irene Williams is a descendant of Prince Paul von Württemberg. And as you can see, when we come to the grandparents of Yvonne, we see Caroline von Rothenberg and Charles Dofeffel. Now, when it comes to Prince Paul, he was a great grandson of King George II. So, if you go back into the history, we have King George II, then we come up to King George IV, and then it becomes William IV, then it becomes Queen Victoria, then Edward VII, then George V, and Edward VIII, and Edward VIII, he abdicated, and then finally it became King George VI, and Queen Elizabeth II is the daughter of King George VI. So it's very, very distant, but anyway, I don't know if we can consider this type of relation as related really, but this is also something which is mentioned in the background. Now this is a slide. Osman Wilfred Ali Kemal, paternal grandfather, and Yvonne Eileen Irene Williams, paternal grandmother, to Boris Johnson. Basically, these are parents of Stanley Johnson. Now, I want to explain about a very famous person, and this is the point that we find out why Boris Johnson have Turkish origins, because his great grandfather was Ali Kemal Bey. Ali Kemal Bey was a famous Turkish journalist, newspaper editor, very famous political activist, and he had a position of Minister of the Interior in the government in the Ottoman Empire. So I'm sure you know better than me that Ottoman Empire collapsed right after the First World War, and that was the point when Kemal Pasha, known as Ataturk, rose to power, and this gentleman, Ali Kemal Bey, was against Ataturk, so he was killed in a brutal way. Anyway, some short background about Ali Kemal Bey himself. He paid several visits to Switzerland, and in one of those visits, he met and fell in love with Anglo-Swiss girl, Winifred Brown, the daughter of Frank Brown by his marriage to Margaret Johnson. They were married in Paddington, London, Middlesex on 11 September 1903. It was Margaret Johnson, or Brown, who later raised up Osman Ali Kemal and gave him the Johnson family name. Osman Ali Kemal was father of Stanley Johnson. So now Ali Kemal fled to exile in England, where in late 1909 his wife Winifred gave birth to a son, Osman Wilfred Kemal, at Bournemouth. Shortly after giving birth, his wife died of fever, and they already had a daughter named Selma. Selma stayed with his mother-in-law, Margaret Brown, and with his children, first in Christchurch near Bournemouth, and then in Wimbledon, London, until 1912. So you can see, due to political issues, and actually his life was in danger, so Ali Kemal moved to United Kingdom. Clearly, the grandfather of Boris Johnson was born there due to this reason. Now, to continue about Ali Kemal, as it is mentioned in this slide, in 1912, Ali Kemal returned to the Ottoman Empire, and so he married again. His second wife was Sabiha Hanim. She was daughter of an Ottoman Pasha. They had one son, Zeki Kunelalp, who was born in 1914. And there is some information here also about the Zeki Kunelalp. He has two sons, Sinan and Selim, and Boris Johnson met them when he was, I think, in the late 1980s, maybe for the first time. I'm not sure about that. when he went to Istanbul. So now you can see the relations. And so Zeki Kunalap really progressed in the arena of political activities. He became the Minister of Foreign Affairs. He was the Turkish ambassador to Switzerland, United Kingdom, and Spain. Unfortunately, in Spain, his wife was killed in a terrorist attack. They, I think, bombed his car, something like that. Now, about the fortune of Ali Kemal in 1922, as it is explained here, he was kidnapped because he was opposing the upcoming new political power in Turkey, which was Ataturk, and so they took him on a kind of trial by the charge of treason, and he was killed brutally, as it is explained here. You will see some photos in this slide. Ali Kemal Bey. Now, this is his first wife, Winifred Emma, Swiss, Anglo-Swiss girl. In this photo, the lady which is sitting on a chair is Winifred Emma, and I'm not sure about this young child. Maybe she's Selma, but I'm not sure about that. So Ali Kemal Bey is the great-grandfather of Boris Johnson. Now, there are interesting photos here. This is Zeki Kunalap, which I explained about him. He was son of Ali Kemal. These gentlemen are Sinan and Selim, and this is his wife. In this photo, you can see a meeting which has happened between Boris Johnson and Selim Kunalap in Istanbul, Turkey. They are discussing many issues, but definitely one of them is about their family. So here how it goes. We can see Ali Kemal, then Wilfred Johnson, then Stanley Johnson, and finally Boris Johnson. And now I would like to add that this is the Stanley Johnson father of Boris Johnson. Due to the reason which was mentioned, after his divorce, he married with Jennifer Kidd in 1981, and to this date they have remained married. Actually, as I mentioned, she divorced Charlotte mainly due to the health problems and mental issues of Charlotte Fawcett. Now I'm going to explain about siblings of Boris Johnson. First of one is his sister Rachel Sabiha Johnson. So she was born in 1965, editor, journalist, television presenter, and author based in London. Now you would know where is the origin of the middle name Sabiha. It is the name of second wife of her great-grandfather Ali Kemal. As I mentioned, when Ali Kemal returned from United Kingdom to Turkey, he married for the second time to a Pasha daughter, and the name of that girl was Sabiha. She has also studied classics, same as Boris Johnson, in Oxford. And she was the member of the Conservative Party, but later joined the Liberal Democrats because of the Conservative support for Brexit, and apparently she was against it. And now Rachel Johnson is married to Ivo Downey, a descendant of William Downey, and they live in London, in Exmoor, Somerset, with their 3 children. So this is a nice photo of Boris and Rachel. Another brother, which is more famous, is Joseph Edmund Johnson. He's a British politician serving as the Member of Parliament for Orpington since 2010, and also a member of the Conservative Party. The interesting point is that He is appointed as the Minister of State at the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy and Department of Education. So basically, he should participate in cabinet meetings. So he is also married and has 2 children. Now this is the photo of Joseph Edmund Johnson. And finally, Leo Johnson. He co-presents the Radio 4 series Future Proofing. He's a consultant to PwC, the famous auditing firm, but probably less involved in politics. And these are his photos. Now, as I mentioned, the father of Boris Johnson, Stanley Johnson, married Jennifer Kidd, and they have 2 children together, which one of them is Maximilian Johnson, and other one is Julia Johnson. You can see their photos here. Yes, this is Maximilian Johnson, Jennifer Kidd, and Stanley Johnson. Now, let's discuss about 2 official marriages of Boris Johnson himself. The first wife of Boris Johnson was Allegra Austin Owen. They married in 1987 and divorced in 1993. There is some information about Allegra. She is daughter of art historian and Christie's auction house chairman, the millionaire William Austin Owen, and his Italian writer wife, Gaia or Gioia, I'm not sure, Servadio. So again, different nationalities are involved here as well. So basically, Allegra and Boris Johnson both went to Oxford, and that was the place that they meet. They were studying the same subject, and they fall for each other and married in 1987. Both of them were 23. But they had some problems. Different reasons are mentioned. Boris Johnson was very involved with his job after the graduation. He was a reporter, he was working for media, and presumably he was really married to his job, not to Allegra, which was one of the reasons for their divorce. And after the divorce, this lady, Allegra, he married to a Pakistani man, which was 22 years younger than her. And now they live in London, I assume. After this marriage, Boris Johnson married Marina Claire Wheeler. They knew each other from childhood, and it is mentioned that 12 days after divorcing from Allegra, they married together, and they have 3 children together. I think she was educated at the European schools of Brussels. So that was the place that they united again. But they knew each other from the childhood, and they have 4 children: Lara, Milo, Cassia, and Theodore. But in September 2018, this marriage also come to an end. One main reason which is mentioned is because of infidelity of Boris Johnson, treason, whatever you can call it. I would explain more. So these are photos of Boris and Maria, and photos of their children, 4 children: Milo, Cassia, Lara, and Theodore. And on the right side, you can see a photo which many of them are present there. Now, let's talk about something else, about the love affairs of Boris Johnson. Anyway, after an affair with Helen McIntyre, an art consultant, in 2009, a judge ruled in 2013 that Johnson had fathered a love child with her, and that child was named Stephanie. And as you can see, during this time, there were claims that he also had a 6th child. Anyway, this is a photo of Helen McIntyre. It's up to you to judge if it is a nice photo or attractive one or not. and if you would have faced such a lady, if you were Boris Johnson, and if she was inviting, what would be your reaction? This is something I leave it up to you. Now, this is a famous story. The partner, Carrie Simons, she was present at the inaugural of Boris Johnson. I'm sure all of you have seen her. And she was born in 1988, well, 31 years old, but definitely a professional 31 years old. There is no doubt about that. She used to hanging out with senior politicians. She first met Johnson when she was seconded to his mayoral re-election campaign. And in 2018, she resigned as Director of Communications for the Conservatives in order to start at Bloomberg to do the PR for the Vibrant Ocean program. So PR Week magazine recognized her as the UK's most powerful public relation professional. Well, clearly, if you are the girlfriend of Prime Minister, then you deserve such a title. Now, the photo on the left is really funny. The photo on the right, Japan stopped whaling. I don't know what she has to do with Japan, but anyway. Now, a brief academic and political background. Boris Johnson studied classics at Balliol College, Oxford, where he was elected president of the Oxford Union in 1986. And it was one of the attractions which absorbed Allegra, his first wife. He began his career in journalism at the Times, but was dismissed for falsifying a quotation. He later became the Daily Telegraph's Brussels correspondent, with his articles exerting a strong influence on growing Eurosceptic sentiment among the British right wing. So later, this type of background helped him regarding the Brexit. He was an assistant editor of the Telegraph from 1994 to 1999 and edited the Spectator from 1999 to 2005. He was elected Member of Parliament for Henley in 2001 and served in the shadow cabinet under Conservative leaders Michael Howard and David Cameron. And in 2008, he was selected as the London mayor. In 2016, when the issue of Brexit came up, he made a bigger name for himself. He was subsequently appointed Secretary of State for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs by Theresa May, but resigned in criticism of May's approach to Brexit and the Chequers Agreement 2 years later. In 2019, he was elected Conservative leader and appointed Prime Minister. So you can see here Boris Johnson with the Queen, and then number 10 at Downing Street, where he made his inaugural speech, and he made lots of promises as typical for our politicians, and started the job. So it's up to you, particularly our mighty fans in UK, to judge how has been and how would be his performance. If you believe in him, if you don't believe in him, if you want to add anything to what I already mentioned, please feel free to leave your comments. Thanks for your attention, and I hope you will have a good life, and to have, if there is anything like good politicians, I wish you have good politicians in your country.